Joining us now is former Congress. God, I hate to say that. Former Congressman.
No, I'm still in Congress.
You're still in Congress.
Till January 3rd.
Dennis Kucinich, who is was my candidate for president a couple of years ago, and as a special guest. We didn't have you scheduled, Dennis, but I'm glad to see you here. Why are you here?
I was very active in that health care debate, Mike, and have been right from the time I first came to Congress. I'm the co-author of H.R. 676, Universal Single-Payer Not-for-Profit Health Care System. And because of my position, I became centrally involved in the debate towards the end of Affordable Care as to whether or not we could even have a public option. Mm-hmm. I pushed through a committee vote, the ability of states to be able to set up a single-payer plan. And that still stands, the amendment I got through committee, as a sign of the viability of single-payer down the road. Mm-hmm. But this bill right now, which is being heard, the arguments heard at the Supreme Court, will determine whether or not Congress has the power to even regulate insurance companies. Will determine whether or not insurance companies will have carte blanche to keep jacking up the rates and sending people into bankruptcy. So it is important that we uphold this bill, and if it's not upheld, then we have to start the effort for single payer all over again.
Given the so many things in this country right now politically that really suck. First of all, the hard right that has so much influence on what happens, whether it's media or in the Congress and the Supreme Court. What is your best guess as to what's going to happen? I realize this is tea leaf reading, but your best guess as to what's going to happen, given the political nature of this court, and it is political.
Well, if the court strikes down the individual mandate, then we're looking at, I suppose, the whole bill going down. Because they didn't have a clause that would say you can keep one part of it going if another part of the bill is deemed to be not legally viable. But I will tell you that if the court were to strike down any essential part of the bill, we go right back to the single-payer argument. Mm-hmm. That would actually, paradoxically, I might add, be the worst thing that could happen for the health insurance companies, because right now they have a captive audience.
Right.
They don't even want to be regulated, though, while the audience is captive. They just want to put us in a form of peonage to insurance companies who are driving the increase in health care, so where it's like 3 times the rate of inflation right now, the increased costs in health care, where insurance company profits are going through the roof. Even in the interim period between the beginning of the implementation of Affordable Care Act and today, they're performing better than a Standard & Poor's 500 index. What's happening is that this debate over at the Supreme Court enables us to start the discussion all over again in America. If the court upholds the law, then Congress did the right thing and has the ability to enact legislation that would regulate the insurance industry. If they don't uphold it, then we've got to go back to single payer, and frankly, that'll be the only way we can control the insurance companies, which is to say there shouldn't be for-profit health care in America. There should only be not-for-profit health care in America.
But given the reality of how hard the right lobbied against single payer, even though single payer was not even an issue, given how hard the right lobbied against the public option, what is, if the Supreme Court does strike this down, what possible hope would even discussion for single payer have?
Well, and let me add, the insurance companies spent $86 million trying to defeat the bill. Mm-hmm. So they don't want any control at all.
Right.
It goes back to who are we as a country? What do we feel about being an American in terms of what are our basic rights? Does government have a moral responsibility to provide for the health care of its people? Or are we all just here as workers on a health insurance plantation? So we have a moment here in time where if the court rules against it, we have to reorganize the country and start a push for a national health care system and empower those states that are pushing for national health care, states like Vermont, states like California, to make it happen at a state level. Once one province enacted it in Canada, not-for-profit care, you saw inevitably all the provinces jumped in.
What are the chances of the American public understanding how critical this issue is? You can make the argument that a lot of people media have provided total misinformation, disinformation, or flat-out lies. Is there time for an education process?
Well, let's do it right now. I mean,
okay.
If you have a young person, age 26 or under this bill, dependent coverage is extended to them. If you have a child under 19 years of age, they cannot be denied insurance and benefits based on pre-existing condition. If you have a serious illness, insurance companies cannot put a cap on the amount of dollars that would be expended for your lifetime. If you're interested in preventive care, the plans have to cover preventive care with no cost sharing. There has to be an appeals process for coverage and claims. Right now, what's the appeals process? You stay on the phone for hours and hours, and no one answers, and they just try to roll you so you can't get coverage. And finally, this bill provided some controls on the amount of money that goes for administrative costs, and says you can't exceed. Your administrative costs can only go to a certain extent in connection with your medical costs. So, look, there are so many benefits there. Is the bill perfect? No. But it showed that we're capable of bringing about some reform, and it will help people.
All right, you were an ardent advocate for single payer, as was and am I. Do you suggest then that people on the progressive left support the ACA as it's currently written, get behind this bill as a means of moving the argument forward?
Well, that's why I voted for it, Mike. It's a transition. I don't see this bill as a destination. It's a stop along the way. It shows that reform within the context of a for-profit system is possible. Because let's say it didn't happen. We would not have been able to prove that we can pass any kind of health care reform bill. But having passed this, and also having passed in committee a bill that provided for states to have a mechanism to move towards single payer, we've changed the argument. I want a not-for-profit system, but this is a step along the way. We cannot concede to the insurance companies any more ground. We cannot let the insurance companies continue to control every aspect of the debate. To tell us on one hand, we don't want to be regulated. We don't want to have to provide for pre-existing conditions. We don't have to want to give young people under 26 coverage under their parents' policy. We don't want to have to put we don't want to have to be exposed to paying more and more if someone's sicker and sicker. If we can't control these insurance companies, they own us.
Right.
This is really what it amounts to. On the other hand, if we can have some controls now, we can hope that the insurance companies' hold on our political process will be somewhat weakened, and that can enable us to catapult towards a not-for-profit system someday.
Let me see if I can get a 30-second answer out of you. Given all the criticality of what you're talking about, how important is it to have a Congress who understands this, rather than a Congress that is politically driven or ideologically driven the way this one
We
is?
need a Congress that understands it, but we need a Congress that's independent enough to be able to vote for the interests of their constituents, which is why I have another bill, House Joint Resolution 100, that would outlaw private funding of elections. The core issue we have in this country is these interest groups can drive the political agenda because they keep investing in politicians and in political parties. So we have to get money out of the political process, then we can reclaim the country. People need information on that, Mike. They can go to my website at kucinich.us. It's great to be on with you.
Thanks,
and it's so good to see you again.
It is.
Last time,
Seattle. We were in Seattle with Molly.
Yes.
Molly's still waiting to come to Congress.
Oh, great.
And
well, I'll look forward to it.
And watch you do
You
things.
let me know.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks again.
I appreciate it. Dennis Kucinich, who I feel like a jerk, former member of Congress. He's not a former member. He was pushed out by the John Kasich machine in Ohio. Rat bastards. Stay with us. I'm Mike Malloy.